Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Writer to Writer. Today we're going to do something different. I'm joined by Seán McNicholl, who's a dear friend of mine and what I think I would call an emerging writer. Is that right, Seán?
Oh yeah, yeah. Any type of writer I'll take. So
Yes.
happy enough. And thanks so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, so we're going. This is going to just be like a fireside chat, just two writers shooting the breeze. And normally I have on writers who've published novels, who recently published novels, but in this case I just want to do something with. Thinking of doing a series of these with emerging writers to because really emerging, like I'm an emerging writer, we don't really get much of a voice sometimes. So I think, and I set up creative community sessions to kind of do that as well. So this is just another aspect of it. So let me tell you about Seán. So Seán McNicholl is an award-winning writer and GP from Armagh. He is the winner of the Hammond's House International Literary Prize, and his work has been shortlisted for the Craft Short Fiction Prize and longlisted for the Bridport Prize, the Fish Prize, the Hope Prize, and the Bedford Prize. His stories have appeared in Epoch Press, The Storms, Famidden, Anomaly, Frazzlelit, and the Belfast Review. He is a three-time Pushcart Prize nominee and has been nominated for Best of the Net and Best Microfiction. And you can find out more about Seán at www.seanmcnicholl.com. I'll include all that in the post. So welcome, Seán. Great to see you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. It's an honor to be here. The fact that I know it's different from what you've done before, but to follow in the footsteps of who you've interviewed so far is quite an honor now. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, so we know each other quite well. Yeah, we send each other work. We're kind of critique partners, and we shoot stories back and forth to each other all the time, and so we're familiar with each other's work and kind of the craft. Well, I'm interested to know how did you how did you come to writing? Like, what brought Seán McNicholl into writing? Where did it start for you?
Well, that's a good question. I was thinking about that earlier today to try and figure out where it really started. Like I always enjoyed writing in school and that, but never took it seriously or anything. And then it, well, I suppose if I go back 20, maybe 2017, around then, I decided to write a novel. And it was about St. Patrick. It was a retelling of St. Patrick, basically from his point of view, as you do. It's still unfinished. It's 80,000 words at the minute and still unfinished, and I don't think it'll ever be finished because my writing style has changed quite a bit from then. But that, I suppose, was a bit of an introduction, and then didn't really do much more until lockdown happened. And at that time, I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to Oscar Wilde's novel, uh, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I just loved it and loved this notion that an inanimate object had such significance and this here. So I was like, oh, I could write a wee short story about that. And wrote a very different, but based around that sort of concept. And then I wrote another and another, and then I had about 7 or 8 stories. That was in, what was that, 2020. And again, that's all I really wanted to do. Never thought much more of it, until our eldest was born in 2022. And I was sitting up in bed. My wife Kira was feeding the child, and she came across the RTE short story competition, and she was like, "Send this one of your stories into that." And I said no, and then she kept at me, so I entered it, and of course I thought I was going to win because, as a naive writer, you think you're writing brilliant prose, and it's terribly cliched, and it's got the past, present, and future tense all in one sentence. But as soon as I hit submit, it something changed in my brain. I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep writing. So then I Googled, writing competitions, online writing competitions, and I came across um Readsy, which is an online website where there's weekly competitions, and you can write given these prompts, and started writing there every week these short stories. And then that put me in touch with an online crowd called Blue Marble. So they're like a writers group online. They were small, they've grown bigger. So much so that with an online Discord and trying to keep up with the chat now, it's very vast and expanding. But that was set up by Deidre Whit-Lundgren and Russell Norman, two fantastic human beings who really encouraged me. Whenever I was a nobody, they invited me onto their podcast. Like whenever I look back, God knows why they did, because what had I done? I was literally new to it. So, but that community sort of kept me encouraged in that, and kept writing, and then delved more into, again, at that stage I was really writing more horror stories, or a lot of sort of ghosty stories and stuff like that, because they were easier to write and fun at the time. But then I decided I wanted to be published. I think that's a lot of writers' ultimate goal, is to be published. And I thought, God, if I had one story in an anthology or in a magazine, I mean, my goodness, would not satisfy the itch. And so I started submitting to that. And my first acceptance was for a horror anthology with Wicked Press. And that was special to see my work in print. And then, oh God, what there was Beyond Words Literary Magazine. That was a wee small magazine and stuff like that. It was really incredible, but it still didn't satisfy the urge. You wanted something more. Every time you get an acceptance, you want more and more. So I kept writing. I sort of whittled down my genre into more literary, because that's where I felt most comfortable and more natural for me. And sort of targeted my reading around that. That's what I read, and friends, that writer friends. That's what I would sort of lean towards. And then met yourself on Twitter, discussing the novel fair. And again, you fit that bill of a literary writer, and an incredible literary writer, So, and then we started sharing stories, and yeah, that's sort of just chipped away, and the focus is sort of narrowed and narrowed. And then decided, yeah, I want to write a novel, and it's out on submission at the minute now. So, and I've had two full manuscript requests in the last few weeks there. So I am crossing every finger and toe that something comes of that. But as you know, Jennifer, it's a long and difficult road.
It sure is, and no, thanks so much for that. It's really interesting to hear your journey. And like my first story, I don't think you know this, but my first published story was a Western story, like a cowboy
Oh,
story, in
all right.
September 2021. It was called Going Nowhere. And actually, I looked at it recently. It's actually, I can recognize some of the aspects of my my style now, my voice, my author's voice. And again, it was I'd read that Elmore Leonard started writing his career by writing Western tales.
Oh, right, right.
And I think a lot of writers in that era did. So because it was, like you said, with like the horror, it was easier. So so I actually had I had a story published in Frontier Tales in September 2021, and then another in December 2021. And then I went into literary, kind of thought, I don't, there was like one online literary journal for Western stories that I could find in the whole world. So I figured that's probably not a direction to go in. And I turned to, like, I went to what I had always loved, which is literary fiction. So it's funny the kind of paths we take to get to where we belong. And yeah, and like I've seen your work um develop over time. I've seen the writer emerge, writer that you have become today, who writes extraordinary stories. Every time you send me a story, it's like, oh my God, this is like, it's getting better. This is worrying.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope you're right. But well, I think you're right. The more you write, I think the better you become naturally, you know, I think Ed Sheeran talked about it. You know, he talked about his early songs, and a lot of them were awful before he wrote what he called 18. And he said it's like turning on a tap. You know, for the first time, there'll be a lot of brown water come out, and it's all you wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, but it'll spurt a wee bit clear every so often, and then that will become more and more common until it's running good. You know, and that's I think you know in the early stories, you have to write the rubbish out before you realize what works and what doesn't, you know. And with writing, I think that's a good way to find your voice is keep writing and until you just feel things click. And you know, now whenever I sit down, the voice nearly comes natural. I'll know what person I want to write it in before I sit down, and I know generally where the story might go, but the actual voice of the piece, where it used to really, I'd feel a pressure writing it. Now it just feels this is it on the page. I know it whenever it's there nearly. You know um it has become easier, thankfully.
Yeah, and that's like it's really. I think we reach a point where we start to recognize what's good and what isn't.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we recognize the quality in our own work, and I spoke to Fiona Scarlett about this. So I used to wonder like that, like I was writing something, is this any good?
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
if I'm and now if I'm wondering if something is good, I can be pretty sure that it isn't.
No,
You know,
listen, Jennifer, anything you've sent me is always good, so you don't need to worry there.
thank you. But you know what I mean? If I'm asking myself the question, then it probably isn't. If I'm not sure it's good, then you know. But
Yeah,
then
yeah. There's something in you telling you that that's
yeah,
not working or something.
but then you know what I think. You know, there's subjective and then there's objective. So
Mhm.
I run stories past you or past my friend Jean or other people, to kind of get another view on it, you know, and
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
maybe you or Jean or someone else will see something in the work that I'm missing, or have a
Well, that's
suggestion that will steer me in a new way with it, you know, which is
mhm.
I think the importance of community can't be overstated really
Oh,
for
absolutely not. No, no. Uh-huh.
and you know like you have a community around you apart from me, you have other writers that you're in touch with. So how did you come to build that community? I think some writers would be interested in that.
Yeah, well, I say back whenever I was starting out and I had I was involved with the Blue Marble Discord group, I would have had quite a few different people reading stories and stuff like that, and I would read them. You know, it was a back and forth. As you said, that having a community or having people there is so important because you're standing with the page 6 inches in front of your face. You can't see it. You know, you can only see what you think is good. And I'm not even talking about typos because Jennifer, as you know, I can't see a typo to save my life in my own work. But even as you said, the bigger things, the structural things, where you know what you're trying to say, but you haven't conveyed it properly on the page. Um, but initially, I would have had a fair few, and you know, not that too many cooks can spoil the broth, but it can pull you in too many directions, you know, because they have their thoughts and their biases and their opinions on it, and you can't please everybody. And I started to realize this is confusing me more than anything. So over time, sort of found people who understand my voice and understand what I'm saying. Now, that can be a two-edged sword because you can put yourself into an echo chamber where you think everyone's great, but it's not. But these are writers that I trust, yourself being one. um, J. Mackenzie, a fantastic writer whose novels, How to Lose the Lottery, is just been released. Highly recommend it. It's just all of her work is just fantastic. I'd be to read for her as well, and same as yourself. I'm picking up things going. Oh, I must add that to my my toolkit here. And then there's Mary Louise McGuinness, who would be the three. She's a writer from Oma, fantastic writer. Had her pieces on the BBC. She was in the best microfiction anthology won that, you know, that sort of thing. She's a credible writer, and just sees things in my work that I don't. All three is, you see, all are so I am utterly indebted to all three. Is you really see things that I don't. Um, and yeah, I would be lost without that input, you know. And as you say, just the value that adds to the work. And I say you could write a story, it might be 80% there, but you can't see that final 20%, you know, or even 90%. Yeah, and the difference of a few percent of improvement can be the difference between, you know, winning something or not winning, or getting published and not, you know, because yeah, other people, no man's an island, as they say, you know. That's the thing. And and maybe there is people who don't need or don't use beta readers. I was listening to an interview with George Saunders there recently, who says he has his stuff nearly ready to go, and then he'll read it to his wife, and I'm like, nobody else even take a look at you. Now he's in the stratosphere, you know, in terms of writing. But God, I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I wouldn't want another set of eyes on it, you know, to keep me right. But yeah, no, I say if you can find, I think, a handful of people who you trust, who are good readers and good writers themselves, you'll not be steered too far wrong.
I think it's interesting what you said about seeing something in someone else's work and adding it to the toolkit, because I think we're all learning from each other.
Mhm.
You know, I see stuff in your work and I think, oh, I like that. Let's remember that one, you know. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's and I love the voices of your characters. Or like, I'd probably, you know, if you put 10 manuscripts on a desk and ask me which one is Sean McNicholl's, I could probably pick it out very quickly. You know, you know, because and the same with my work, you'd probably
Mhm.
recognize it because
Oh, well, that's the thing, Jennifer. Your prose is just gorgeous. You know, it just flows, and the way you craft sentences. I say, I always go, God, that's great. I must remember something like
well,
that there. Look at that. And then I go around and go, this is terrible. Mine doesn't work. You know, you know,
well,
but
that's
yeah,
interesting. So
no.
I get the same. I look at your stories and I go, oh, mine are rubbish. Why am I even writing?
Oh, no, not at all. Listen, the feeling's mutual whenever I'm reading for you, you know.
But you know, I wrote about this in a craft article for Fraser Lit, that like all art is derivative. So, you know, I read a novel, I see someone doing something. I think, you know, I read a Donald Ryan book. I try. I don't read much when I'm actually, you know, actively working on a new novel, because if I start reading Donald Ryan, I start trying to write like Donald Ryan. If I read
Yeah.
Kevin Barry, suddenly all of a sudden I'm, you know, doing a knockoff Kevin Barry voice. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And actually, I heard, I think Don said that recently to someone. I think I heard him say that recently somewhere, um, about kind of, you know, reading while writing. Um, so, we talked about community, but there's also the role of literary journals,
Mhm.
submission windows, and competitions.
Mhm.
And I think for me, they really played a big part in honing my craft. Like, in terms of having a goal to aim for.
Mhm.
What would you think of that?
Yeah, well, I say that keeps it's useful, you know, useful for motivating you. You know, if you think, God, this competition's coming over, I want to be in with a shout here. I'll have to get something. Um, I say I unless there's a specific theme, I don't usually write for, you know, I don't go, right, Bridport's coming up, I want to write something. I'll usually have something in the catalog, because I say I write and I write and I write, and I'm writing more than I'm getting accepted at the same time. So there's always a backlog there that I can dip into. But there are ones that are themed that I find sometimes writing to a theme can be more difficult, because I feel it's more constrained. The Alpine Prize is coming up, and I just finished. Actually, you better read for it there. Uh, was that over the weekend? Maybe. That took several goes to get something down, because the theme is joy, and Jennifer, I'm sure you're aware because you read a lot of my stuff. Joy doesn't feature in my work too commonly. It's usually quite dark at times. But so I struggled and I hemmed and I had and I changed it and it really was a bit of a torture. But I've got something now that I'm happy with, or relatively happy with it. I still have a couple of weeks before the deadline, so I've time to scrub it up a wee bit more. But it it, it's good because if you're going to the gym and you're sitting doing bicep curls every day, and then you go to sit on a bench press, you're not going to lift anything. You need to work all your muscles. Same with creative writing. There's no point staying in your one track the whole time because you'll go stale, and writing outside that comfort zone, I think is a massive thing. And different competitions are like that. Different journals have different styles and desires. Um, I do have a list of journals that I dream of one day getting into. Whether I ever will, I don't know. I'd say every writer maybe is the same. Um, but I will keep I will keep submitting until they get sick of seeing my name in their inbox at the same time. Um, the Whenever with competition, well, with journals as well, getting an acceptance, it just keeps you going a while. It's scary how quick that feeling wears off, though. I don't know if you found this, Jennifer, but like I got an acceptance for a piece, actually getting it's a paid piece. I didn't realize it was paid whenever I submitted it, and it was paid very well. Um, and that I was delighted until the next day, and I was like, I haven't got an acceptance in a while. It was 12 hours. That's how little time had passed before I was like, God, I need, it's a good thing I'm not on any illicit drugs because I am clearly an addict. I just need that hit. It's scary how quick the dopamine wears off before you need another top up. So um that although I think that's a good thing because again that's driving the motivation, that's pushing on and keeps me writing. I say there's great journals and magazines out there, Frazzled included, and the Frazzled competition, which I'm sure is coming up very soon.
Opens June 1st to June
Okay.
30th.
So not
Coached
not
by
too far
Donald
away.
Ryan.
Exactly. I mean, there's if ever you needed a reason to enter a competition, there it is. So, um, I I'm gonna have to write something special for it now because I think you've read everything in my back catalogue. So I'll have to go something new and not ask you to read it for me. So um yeah, all those sort of things that keep you going. Um and I think that's massive. Some now magazines are flat out. That's the problem. It would be lovely if they said no, but here's why, or no, but Jennifer, you're on the other side of that. And I know Frazzled are better than 99% of journals in respect to that. I mean, I've had some basically no, and that's it, and you're like, well, was I on the right track here or anything? But um, I suppose whenever you're dealing with hundreds of submissions or maybe thousands of submissions, your back's against the wall with it. But there are some that whenever you get a wee personal rejection where you're like, oh, I was close, the London magazine, for example, when I submitted to them, they said that they found it really hard to let go and they really and discussed it for a while. I mean, that's one of my dream journals to get and magazines to get into. To hear that from them, I mean, filled me with delight. It was as good as an acceptance nearly. So all those sort of wee things that keep you going. I don't know, you might have more thoughts on it. You're on both sides of it, submitting
Yeah, it's I actually got a rejection just before we came on this call. So and like it's like file forget, move
yeah,
on.
yeah.
It's a story that I haven't found a home for yet. Hopefully will someday. It's a story I love. But yeah, and those tiered rejections are so important. I mean, I get them. I've had them from some of my dream journals as well, and it's as good as an acceptance. In fact, they stay with me more than the acceptances do,
Yeah, yeah.
because you have to remind me from time to time that, oh, Jennifer, you got that last week. I know, like, because I'm the same. It's like the very first one I got, it was like, yay, for 2 weeks, like
Mhm.
so exciting. And then the next one I got, it was like, yeah, grand, you
Yeah, exactly. No,
know.
it just wears off so quick, so it
Yeah,
does.
it's like it's the I call it short stories and acceptances are like the cocaine of the literary world.
Yeah, yeah. Take it,
Like
go, and move on. Really, that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's yeah, and like in the Frazilit, it's we cherish the work we receive, and we try to give as much as we can back, even if we're not accepting a piece, we try to give some encouragement.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. I say you're. Um, I've thankfully been on the accepting end of Frazzlet. I've also, with the competition that didn't get and listen, as I say, you are kinder than a lot of other magazines out there. That's for sure. Who probably aren't even maybe getting as many acceptances or sorry, as many pieces sent to them as yourselves. So, no, I can't speak highly enough of you.
Oh, thank you. And I suppose that's because we get so many rejections ourselves. We know what it's like. So like you write and you write and you write, as you said. Like what's really or one of the interesting things to me about you is that you're a GP, you're a very busy GP, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a son, and you're a writer, and you're a football fanatic, Gaelic football fanatic. So, like, I was a general sports fanatic, I think. So,
Oh well, well, more Armagh, yeah, that would be the big one. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
like the circumstances under which you write are can be quite fascinating.
Yeah, well, I say I just try to like if I have a free moment, I'll try if I have something in the head to put down. I used to really beat myself up if I wasn't writing every day and stuff, and I'd feel guilty, and I should be doing more, should be doing more. It, and I know some people say I used to give that advice. You need to write every day. You need to. I don't know. I've kind of rolled back from that, and I was so glad to see Neil Hegarty say something similar. Life's there. You can't run away from life. There's stuff that has to be done. Um, and yeah, so I'm I've always written on my phone. That's how I write my stories. It used to be in notes, now it's on what you call it, Google Documents. Um, and I wrote the novel. It was 90,000 words initially, and that was all done on the phone. Nearly every story, I think maybe one I've written on a laptop. I don't know if I could actually switch to a laptop now to write, because it looks so strange on the page. I'm like, no, I need it on my phone where I'm looking right at it. But that gives me the benefit that, I mean, I always have my phone on me, so if I have a free minute, I'll write. Um, so it's usually in the evenings, sitting up on the couch. We Neither myself or my wife would be big TV watchers anyway, so um, if we're sitting up, she might be scrolling through whatever Instagram or that, or she's doing a course at the moment, so she's studying at the minute. So it gives me a bit of free time after the children are in bed that I can go, right, I'll finish this story, and um or lying up in bed, just if I've 15, 20 minutes before bed, well, there's 20 minutes I can put something down, a couple of hundred words at least. Um, I've written in the Grand Opera House in Belfast. I've written in nearly every football ground in Ireland that I've been at, where I'm sitting before the match and I go, well, I can stick a few words down here, something's in my head. I've written in hospitals. I've written in, yeah, anywhere I have a free moment, because I have it all on my phone. It's saved there, ready to go to pick up where I left off. So, um, I mean, everybody's busy, that's every life has stuff to fill it. So, it's just about maximizing the moments. And I say, for me, working on the phone, it suits me, and I can see it works with my brain at the minute, that I can get a story down. I'll usually keep going. I'm not one who can jump, leave a block, write the ending, come back and fill the gaps. I have to go start to finish, and get it out. Even though I know maybe where it's going, sometimes whenever you're writing, and suddenly the story takes a big turn that you didn't see come. So that's why I never write any further than the last line I've finished. Um, and I say so I know sort of what's coming on, keep going, and then once I have it to a length that once I feel the story's complete, then I go back and go read it and go, is there something lacking in this section? Is there something lacking? What am I not doing here? And try to tweak it, and then once I have it up to what or cut. That's a big part of it. I've overwritten sometimes, and I have to take out line upon line of writing that's either expositional or just waffle and doesn't add to the story, because you want to keep your stories moving. That's it's about momentum and forward movement and that. So and then I send it off to yourself, Jennifer. Then after that, come on, please read this, and be kind. But yeah, no, that's usually the process of it. The big problem I've come across is I've two other novels. I've one novel finished and I'm working on two at the minute. Um, and the one that I want to finish next, I have written up to a point, and I wrote that a car pulls up to the house and there's two people in the car. I can't remember who the hell those two people are or why they're at the house. I'm like, he sees the car pull up, and I'm like, who was coming to visit him? I have no idea. So a bit stuck as to thinking what was that I was writing back then, because I'd sort of give it a bit of a break. And now I can't remember. So that's a bit of a problem. Maybe I should write a bit more often. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, look, I've written two novels at the same time. It's very hard. Like, I mean, I find at this stage I'm actually forgetting the names of real people because I've so many characters in my head all of the time. So many novels, not just the ones I've written, but the ones I've read.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
many stories, and it's very crowded place up here.
Oh, exactly. It takes over. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
So what inspires you?
Um, I don't. That's a difficult question. I actually don't know. Like I'll just get inspiration. It'll just pop into my head. Like the story that longlisted for fish there was one. I think it's one of my better ones. I hope it is anyway. But I really love it. It's one that I really hope finds a good home. I was hoping it was fish, but oh well. You move on. But it came. I was pushing. It's about a father whose wife, you find out that his wife is in ICU, and he's looking after two newborn twins, or nearly newborn twins, and a toddler. And that came from walking around Armagh. I had my two children, my two girls, in the buggy, a double buggy. I think my wife was at work, and was just walking around Armagh, down on the Mall, which is the green in the centre of the town. And people were, nodding or smiling or saying hello, and somebody said something about, oh, you're great to be out with him or whatever. And I was like, my wife was doing this. She wouldn't get this sort of attention. No, this is ridiculous. I'm their father. Of course I should be looking after them. And that was kind of in my head. And then I thought, God, imagine if this was my life, if God forbid something happened to Kira, and this, I could be, I could be a single father with two children, pushing them around. And that's where that whole story came from. Other times it could be a lyric in a song that sparks something in my head. It's not the direct lyric, but it's something linked to it that I've thought about. And then, oh, well, there's something, just a wee kernel of writing, or being out for a walk. The one there recently that long listed for the Hope Prize, I think it was out with a walk with, again, my wife and the two girls, and a bit of a dandelion blew across in front of me. And I thought, oh, that's a really lovely image. And I just had this idea of it from a woman's point of view, and saying that her boyfriend was something about he moves like the dander of a dandelion. I just like that line, and and then the whole story came out of it. So yeah, just anywhere, just random thoughts, I suppose, that pop into my head. I mean, if you have any good ways of finding inspiration, fire away. But yeah, it seems to come quite haphazard.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, I overhear something, or sometimes a line, just an opening line, pops into my head, and like that's the story,
Mhm,
that's the start
mhm,
of it, or a character, an idea of a character, like
mhm,
or a scene maybe. Last night I was talking to someone and she was telling me about something that happened to her
mhm.
um at an adventure weekend, and I thought, oh, there's a story.
Yeah,
you know, but it's not, but like it won't be. It's not that I'll be writing her story. It's that she sparked an idea for me,
yeah,
or
yeah. Well, that's it.
almost a symbol almost
Uh-huh,
that I can
uh-huh.
draw on, so that's happened quite a few times. I suppose for me, it's I'm looking for, and I know you are the same. We're looking for that extraordinary moment in an ordinary day, or in
Mhm,
the life of an ordinary person. We don't really
mhm.
write about rich people or,
No, no, no. It's quite the opposite
yeah.
usually.
So, it's kind of, and I suppose personal experience as well
Mhm,
can often not writing it in terms of this is what happened to me, but just
mhm,
maybe a feeling or an emotion from, you know, personal experience that can spark something.
mhm.
Um, and the work of other writers can inspire us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, or a painting or a bit of
Mhm.
music, as you said. I have a few story ideas that I still haven't developed. I have a list of around 150 story ideas. I'm sure you probably have the same.
I'm
Um,
just terrible at writing them down. I have forgotten more ideas than I have written down. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
where
made a
I'm
point of
driving. I'm
writing
like,
them
oh,
down.
yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I made a point of, because I lost so many. I said,
Mhm.
right, start cataloging them. So I think up to about, it was 180 or something, I think,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
all of them, like a lot of them are not developed yet, but
Mhm.
so I go back and look at that every so often. But the thing that, like, the more I think about a story before I write it, the less chance there is of me actually writing it.
Yeah, yeah,
You get that? Yeah.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I create in the moment,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
like some stories that have been published, some of my stories that have been published, I've written in like 2 hours, 2,000 words, and
Mhm.
they've hardly changed. Like
Yeah.
a word has hardly changed from the original version to the published version,
Mhm,
because they just
mhm.
come out in a burst of spontaneous creation, and
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
wonderful feeling.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Whenever whenever you're just in the zone, and it just comes to you. That's what you dream of.
Yeah, and like now at the moment I'm going through this phase, and I always think of it as a growth phase where I'm struggling to write, and I'm looking back at everything I've written, and I'm going, that's rubbish.
Oh,
Like,
so, well,
all that,
let
just
me tell you, it's
throw
definitely
that
not.
out. Gonna draw a line in the sand. But usually that means that I'm seeing something, I'm moving towards something even better.
Mhm.
And so at the moment I'm stuck for, like, I can't write anything I write. Every sentence I write is like rubbish.
Yeah,
Not good
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Not good
Well,
enough.
no, yeah.
And
Listen, we all go through
yeah.
phases. But no, no. I say, Jennifer, if you're putting it down the page, it's nowhere near
I know you
terrible.
haven't
That's for
seen what I
sure.
wrote today. But and there's, I suppose, do you find that like I've more unfinished stories than I have finished stories?
Funny, I was just going back through all the Google documents there last week, and I was like, "Oh, what's that there?" And I was like, "Oh God, that's a story I didn't finish. Right? Oh, that's another one I haven't finished. Oh, that's another one I haven't finished." And at the time I thought, yeah, like talking about writing down ideas. One of them I just wrote anxious wife. I have no idea what I was thinking at that time, or what that story was meant to become, but that's two words on a blank document. So yeah, there's so many, and sometimes I go back to them, and I've written maybe 400 or 500 words, and I'm like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever written. And now I go back and read it and go, that's not even nowhere near the mark. It's just waffles. So um yeah, normally if I start a story, I like to try to get it finished. Usually if I hit the 500 word mark, my brain kicks into it, right, I need to finish this, you know, regardless and I'll polish it up at the end if even if it's not working. But there's a hell of a lot of unfinished stories lying about there that I need to go back and work on. Some of them I think probably have a bit of promise to them. But a lot of them are a lot of them shouldn't see the light of day, you know, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're unfinished for a reason, and
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's I think that's part of it. Like, I always find I can recycle something from a lost story. I can,
Mhm,
even if it's a line or a concept or you know, a symbol or something.
mhm, mhm,
But I think every story is an experiment. Every novel is an experiment.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and some experiments don't work.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it. And I say that you sometimes learn more from that, what doesn't work than
Yeah.
what does, you know. So, I say uh, the more you write, I do think the better you get. You know, it's same as you talk. You know, they talk about Lennon and McCartney, 10,000 hours and stuff like that. Some of their stuff in the early days, I've heard Paul McCartney saying it was dreadful, you know, and didn't work. What's the song they have? Oh, I want to hold your hand. That was something initially. I want you to wear my ring, or I want to buy you a ring, or something like that. There, and one of them said, "Why don't you just make it simpler? Why not just I want to hold your hand?" And boom, so it's that was trial and error, you know, and that's the same as creative writing sometimes, you know, where you have to try it. If it doesn't work, right, well, move on or take something from it that'll work on the next one, you know, and keep churning out the work.
So, what does the future hold for Sean McNicholl? Look into your crystal ball and
God knows. That's what hopefully, I mean, I'm hopefully that I'd love to be agented. I would love to have novels plural out there, you know. It's this isn't just a flash in the pan sort of thing. I want to, you know, and I was thinking this before coming on here. It's like, why do I want that? And I don't know. Like, I mean, I've heard it said it's incredibly arrogant, you know, to think that people should read what you've written. You know, like, who am I? I'm not Donal Ryan. I'm not Neil Hegarty. I'm not, you know, who you had on Patrick Holloway or Nuala O'Connor. You know, who the hell am I? I've no background in writing at all, you know, but at the same time, I want to keep writing. You know, it's just in me that I, I feel I have to keep going. And thankfully, over the past 12 months or so, I've had successes there that have kind of given me a bit of confidence in it, and you know, I now feel more comfortable saying I'm a writer. You know, I'm not an author yet, please God, very someday soon I will be. But it took me a long time to be able to say, yeah, I am a writer. You know, that's part of who I am. I'm still a GP. I'm definitely a husband and a father. But yeah, writing is definitely part of who I am, you know, and that's it. But as for what the future holds, it'll hold more stories, hopefully better stories, and hopefully there'll be novels there. And yeah, just I'll keep chipping away and see what's what. Keep sending stuff out, keep taking the rejections, and moving forward. You know.
it's interesting when you tell someone. I had this experience recently. When you tell someone you're a writer, they don't actually think. Well, my experience anyway is that they don't think of me as a writer.
Mhm.
So I have to kind of explain to them. No, I'm actually a writer, like an actual working writer
Yeah.
with a literary journal and like a catalogue of published work. And
Mhm, mhm.
you know, it's like, oh, are you? Oh, I thought you were such like maybe wrote stories to yourself or something.
Well, that's it. You know,
And which is fine if that's what people do. But there's a thing from the Tao Te Ching. Um, came across it in a book called 365 Tao. I love this. She withdrew, and I have it off my wall here, so I'm reading it off my wall. There's a beautiful Chinese pictogram. She withdrew into herself, first writing just for one, then touching thousands. She incarnated ghosts, hurt, and joy into paper and ink stories of wonder. I must send you that actually.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She withdrew into herself, first writing just for one, which is really
Mhm.
what we do, isn't it? then touching thousands.
Mhm.
No, I mean, like you are a writer. Like I see a great future for you.
Oh,
You
I hope you're right.
oh definitely.
If you have the lotto numbers as well for tonight, I'd take them, you know.
So yeah, we wrap it up there, Sean, and yeah, so look, it's an absolute pleasure to kind of talk to you and talk about the craft and
Oh, it's
you know, I've got the utmost respect for your work. I've seen the growth of your craft, like from when you first contacted me about the novel fair and we got chatting and we started exchanging work. I mean, the work you were producing then was good, but like now it's superb. And
I really appreciate it. I say
yeah,
you're too kind, but I think thanks first of all for having me on, for all that you've done. I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, my ratings, if it's improved, it's largely because of the input of yourself and I say Jay and Mary Louise as well, because you've all kept me in the right direction, you know. But I say a huge amount to you. I'd say for all you do for the literary world in Ireland and beyond, you know, look at what Frazzle Lit is going from strength to strength. You've not just a magazine, not just short story competitions, not just interviews, you know, you just going and going, and the podcast on top of it, you know, it's really becoming a powerhouse, you know. And it's fantastic to see that even though you are expanding, you're putting writers first, you know, which is lovely, you know. And you know, it's an absolute credit and a testament to you.
thank you so much, Sean. Hang on with me for a minute when we log off here. But thanks, Sean McNicholl. Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to get to know you better. And
Excellent.
thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.